You know, as much as I love getting these fancy new weatherized shoes and pumpkin spice lattes and everything that fall has, it's also a harsh reminder that in just a couple of weeks' time, I'm gonna have to get out there and start shoveling. Anyway, let's talk about something a little bit happier, the Saucony Endorphin Speed #2 Run Shield. Yes, that's a mouthful, but let's talk about this baby. Welcome back to the channel, folks. If this is your first time here, my name is Brendon, and on this channel we talk about the strategies and tools to help us become faster runners and be healthier, whatever that means for you. Could be to lose weight, it could be to get out there and run faster, whatever you want. We're gonna talk about the strategies on this channel. And yes, I may look a little bit tired because I'm recording this video first thing in the morning, not something I typically do, but hey, that's when we have to do it. Now let's talk about this Run Shield version. The specs on the Run Shield version are pretty much the exact same as on the Endorphin Speed #2. The exact same midsole and outsole. The only difference is in the upper. They have this new Run Shield material. When I initially saw that, I was concerned that they'd put this weatherized upper and destroy that lightweight trainer that we all loved in the Endorphin Speed #2, but no. Saucony, somehow, they performed some witchcraft and wizardry and made this shoe 10 grams lighter in my size compared to the Endorphin Speed #2. That's 0.35 ounces for you folks that like that. And I know what you're thinking, 10 grams, that's nothing. And it honestly is nothing. Maybe I could just drink a little bit less water before I go out on my run, but that's beside the point. Saucony is performing witchcraft and wizardry, and I'm so glad that I've been studying the ancient texts of Harry Potter so I can go up and beat those who must not be named, Saucony. If you want to hear more about the specs of the midsole and outsole on this thing, I'll leave a link to my initial review of the Endorphin Speed #2, and you can get all that information there, but I'm not going to cover too much on this video about those things because they've been spoken about quite a bit. I'm just going to touch on them very briefly. So the Run Shield upper fits extremely well. I was shocked at how comfortable this upper is when I put it on for the first time. In comparison to the Endorphin Speed #2 normal upper, man, the Run Shield upper it's leaps and bounds better. That is quite honestly my opinion. When you put your feet in, that thermal backing that they have in here is nice and soft. And it's so surprising that they didn't increase the weight at all because it seems like they've added a bunch more material around the ankle collar and in the tongue, but somehow they didn't. It's insane. So in terms of comfort, this upper is extremely comfortable. And in terms of lockdown, this thing is much better than on the Endorphin Speed #2 version because whatever they've done here, they've added a bit more material through the heel collar. It's added to that lockdown, and the lockdown that I'm getting on this is much, much better than I'm getting on the initial Endorphin Speed 2. It's crazy. What I think is adding to that lockdown is the reinforcement in the heel and the gusseted tongue. Both of these things are fantastic, and I absolutely love the feel of them. But anyway, yes, this upper is extremely comfortable, but it can be comfortable, but they're marketing this shoe as a weatherized shoe. So how does it perform in terms of weatherized? So I don't know if you saw the initial videos, but I took this shoe out on the perfect day. It was absolutely downpouring, and that was my second run. I also took it out on a dry day, but that's not the point of these shoes. How does it perform in this downpour? And I have to be honest, it was actually pretty darn good. So most shoes, when I'm out there running, they get very soupy and wet, and the shoe gets much, much heavier compared to when I initially start the run. When I end the run, the shoe probably gains like, I don't know, half an ounce at least in terms of water. But on this, it didn't absorb any water. That water-resistant material is truly water resistant. And this was an extreme condition day. This is not just like a nice fall rain. No, this was a downpour, torrential rains, and it didn't absorb any water. Now there was a little bit of water absorbed through the heel collar, but not much if I'm being completely honest. But for some reason, my feet did get a little wet, and I'm not sure if that's because my feet were sweating, which is kind of gross, or if it was the water getting through, like, I don't know, the separation between the tongue and the vamp here. I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, my feet did get slightly wet, but nothing like I'd get if I was wearing just a normal shoe like the Rebel V2, for example. When I wore that in a rainstorm, my feet were extremely soaked. And in terms of keeping my feet warm, it definitely did keep my feet warm, almost too warm because it was 20 degrees Celsius and like 95% humidity. So it was just a gross day out there, and this shoe, it felt warm. But that's exactly what I'm gonna want in a couple weeks time when it's like -10, snowing and just slushy and gross. This is gonna come in perfect. And I'm trying to think of a downside or negative about this upper that I honestly don't have any downsides or negatives right now. I've only done 2 runs in this shoe so far, totaling like 15 kilometers, but in terms of performance, the RunShield upper is extremely comfortable. It keeps my feet dry, and it's gonna keep them warm very likely. I need to test that out though. Stay tuned for that. I don't really have the words to describe how impressed I am with this RunShield upper. Like I said, I was initially very skeptical that they were just gonna add a bunch of weight and make the shoe too warm and people just wouldn't like this shoe, but it's not the case. This is a perfect weatherized update to an already great shoe. I want to touch briefly on the outsole traction because if you're going to be wearing this shoe through the winter and through these fall days with a bunch of wet leaves on the ground, you're going to want to have a decent amount of traction. And because they didn't change up the outsole pattern or the type of rubber, at least that's what I saw on their Saucony website anyway, like they didn't mention that they updated the outsole in any capacity. But if you read on online forums and YouTube comment sections, some people do say that the rubber in the Endorphin Speed RunShield is slightly different compared to the initial Endorphin Speed, but I can't find any confirmations about that. But what I can say is I ran intentionally on a bunch of wet leaves and ran through puddles, and I didn't have any issues in terms of traction. Now, it's going to be a different story, of course, when I'm going out there on snowy days, but right now, for rainy days, I didn't have any trouble in terms of traction with this outsole. And in terms of midsole performance, you're getting that exact same peppy, beautiful roll through like you get on the initial Endorphin Speed 2. It's the exact same sensation. I much prefer this version of the Endorphin Speed over the initial Endorphin Speed number 2. The upper on this thing is so comfortable. The lockdown is much better than the Endorphin Speed number 2, and I just find it much more accommodating and just overall, it's a much more pleasurable experience than in the initial Endorphin Speed 2, but that comes at a cost because this thing is 25 Canadian dollars more expensive than the Endorphin Speed number 2, or 20 US dollars or something like that. Is that additional cost worth it for you? Here's a couple of questions that I want you to ask yourself. Do you live in an area that you know you're gonna get a bunch of rain, a bunch of snow, and it's gonna be cold more often than it's gonna be warmer? If the answer to that question is 100% yes, pick up the Endorphin Speed number 2 RunShield version because you're gonna get a lot more use out of it and you're gonna enjoy it much more. If you're not someone that lives in an area like that, don't buy the RunShield version. Second question, do you just like having cool looking shoes? If the answer is yes, this looks much cooler than the initial Endorphin Speed 2, which in comparison looks like, I don't know, it looks boring. This looks so much fun. Folks, I'm shocked at how much I'm enjoying the Endorphin Speed 2 RunShield version. I didn't think I would like it this much, but Saucony, they just shocked me once again. Like, this Endorphin lineup of shoes from Saucony is just top notch. Let me know, are you gonna pick up the RunShield version of the Endorphin Speed, or have you? What's your opinion on it so far? Are you as excited about it as I am? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I really appreciate you making it to the end of the video, and I will see you on the next one.